This video is brought to you by Devout Decals, makers of reusable Catholic art for your home altar, your bedroom, and your home classroom.
Last week, something really horrible happened in fact, a week ago today, something really horrible happened down in what is, at least on paper, one of the most Catholic cities in the country. Because our hosts are cracking down on the stories related to that, we have to tread carefully here, but we'll call it the Big Easy. It's one of its big nicknames. It's the home of Mardi Gras. Every year, right around, Shrove Tuesday or Fat Tuesday, as it gets called, there's a big party down in that city. And in fact, the epicenter of the big party in that city tends to have big parties for Christmas and Halloween and any other secular holiday you care to name, including New Year's. So about a week ago, something rather horrible happened there. That goes without saying. And people immediately went to politics, replacing the blame on how that evil act happened. Now, you shouldn't be surprised by that, frankly, because politics is at the heart of how that happened and why it was done. But these discussions often happen in a bubble, right? You go to social media, you choose your friends carefully, even if you're on a place like X where your posts can be seen beyond people who merely follow you. But these discussions happen in a bubble. But you'll rarely get a reality check about living in a bubble faster than when you see the opposing views of people during a very real tragedy. And we got a reality check on that front, and it was from a place that it should never have happened from in the first place. Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Soler of San Antonio really does not like the incoming president of the United States. And he went on a ridiculous rant blaming him specifically for what happened in the home of America's Mardi Gras celebrations, instead of blaming, permissive politicians who let people like the person who carried this evil deed out into the place in the first place. Or, blaming the devil and acknowledging the reality of spiritual warfare and maybe how theology that rejects Christ is probably not something we should be cozying up to, and all these other things, and how all of these discussions can spill over from the spiritual world and the world of the theoretical in terms of theology discussions and the rest, into the very real material world all too often. Instead, we get horrible takes like what we saw here. So we get this headline from Rant. Is Archbishop of San Antonio in need of a mental health checkup? I suspect the Archbishop here has something else that's at the heart of this. He himself was brought into America to serve as bishop, and he takes that issue, the incoming president's biggest issue of them all, the one that catapulted him to victory, personally. That's why he went off the deep end so totally. He's been an outspoken critic of the incoming president on the issue of people moving around a lot. Again, our hosts have rules about these things, very one-sided rules. But he takes that issue to heart specifically. He conflates it with the opposition to the sacrifice to Moloch. He's a firm believer in Cardinal Bernardin's seamless garment ideology, which is a false theology that equates every other social problem with that one issue that is an unequivocal issue that Catholics have to oppose in all of its forms. And so he went off, completely lost the plot on X. And frankly, he wrote it in not the most competent English I've ever seen. So we go here to the screenshots from X. They may not be the easiest to read here, but I will read them for you. I did post them myself to my personal Facebook with some lyrics from Cher to go with it, because every time I see these kind of posts from these people, it reminds me that they are almost certainly mostly of the James Martin persuasion. But here is what Archbishop Gustavo, as he gets called, had to say about this. Quote, "We follow God's and the U.S. Constitution, which follows life values. We're against those who think and feel that they're better controlling the USA Constitution. Beyond the law, they're irrational and emotionally sick. It's sad people follow them. What a pity. People choose to be sick." And then again, "Thanks be to God that the incoming president is not God. Thanks be God forever." Why these tragedies? Because the president-elect's words in the last few years? If we trigger actions, what do we want? If the leadership speak about hate, we will have hate. Hate, if we have actions of love, we'll have love. Some people do not want love. They have a problem. Big. Do we want peace? Stop all this tyrant words and actions. We want peace. Change your attitude. Attitude does good things if you truly want. Do you want peace? Christ can help you. He is the Prince of Peace. God, God, God. Narcissism should not be celebrated. Humility, kindness, and respect should be our identity. Forget about greatness, lies, and stupidness. We should search for truth, honesty, and what is good and right. We don't find this in our government. One person does not represent who we are." End quote. Yeah, so he actually said that stuff, and I did my best to make the grammar there a little bit better so it could communicate the ideas to you, but not everybody should have an X account. Not everybody should be on Facebook. Not everybody should be on YouTube. Some people should not do these things, because the higher your office is in the church, and I'm a mere layman, but he's an archbishop who as I'll talk to you here in a moment, I suspect he's going to be named a cardinal soon. If you are a apostolic man, if you have an office in the hierarchy in the church, and a fairly high-profile one at that, the Archdiocese of San Antonio is not exactly a small place, then you should exercise restraint when speaking. He did anything but exercise restraint. And it's that lack of restraint here that we can explain away. You see, Rant in their article gives you some important details here. And again, people do not like when I mention that Francis's predecessors since Vatican II, none of them have been actually that good, honestly. People tend to really like them, really hold them in high regard. I understand that. Trust me, I do. But he was made a bishop by John Paul II, and again by Benedict XVI. Let's go to Rant for this. Quote, "Gustavo Garcia Soler, born in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, was named an auxiliary bishop of Chicago in 2003 by John Paul II, and later named Archbishop of San Antonio, Texas, by none other than Benedict XVI. Good grief, another sign that both pontiffs were often misled by their collaborators. Though he describes a poor childhood, he's the eldest child of a large family. Archived web pages of a Mexican social events magazine seem instead to show, for those familiar with Latin American families and realities, his family lives a very prosperous life in that dear nation of Mexico. As a member of a religious order, he surely made a vow of poverty, but voluntarily. Yet he cosplays as a poverty-stricken campesino, that's a poor farmer, and uses his Twitter or X account as some kind of shock-filled litany of complaints against American conservatives." End quote. And yes, he does that. This is not the first time he's gotten into trouble for this. He actually went off last May about the big battles and conflict going on in the Holy Land, and the land of our Lord's birth. And he said things about the country there that's America's biggest ally that you are under no circumstances as a conservative ever allowed to dare to even hint that there's anything wrong with. He said things about them that were that many would find troubling. And then he went and apologized very quickly for it. That was odd, by the way, because he hasn't apologized for what he said here about the incoming president, and you know he's not going to. Especially now that we know that Cardinal McElroy is going to be the Cardinal Archbishop of Washington, D.C. This is about politics. And this is something to bear in mind. See, the author of that piece goes on to point out how bizarre it is to see a bishop going off like this. But get used to it, folks. We've entered promotion season in the church, and as I reported to you yesterday, Cardinal McElroy is getting a huge promotion to the See of Washington, D.C. in a purely openly political act, as I told you about in that live stream. Maybe this archbishop will get a suitably important promotion as well. Maybe he'll be given be elevated to the College of Cardinals, maybe to either Chicago or New York in the coming months. See, Cardinal Cupich hit age 75 last March. That's the mandatory retirement age for a bishop. Now, the Holy Father is always open to not accepting their resignation. On their birthday, they submitted a resignation letter to the Pope, and then the Pope does with it what he wants. If he responds to that letter, that generally means that your resignation is being accepted. If he does not respond, you keep your job until he changes his mind. Or he may respond and say, yes, I'm working on it. You will be in this position now for the next year or two or whatever, but be prepared for the end of your time as the ordinary of this diocese. Point being, Cupich has been there for almost a year past his birthday now. He will be 76 soon. He won't go for that much longer. And the age of 80 is generally when the cutoff on all of that is. Most notably, among the cardinals, at the age of 80, they can't even participate in a papal conclave anymore, the process to give us the next pope. They have to actually step back from that. They can attend, as rules are. They can help their brother bishops there, but they can't actually vote on who the Pope is going to be and some of the other things there. But that Chicago is available. And in about a month, New York's will be available. The Archdiocese of New York will be available. You see, Cardinal Dolan turns 75 in less than a month, and he will hit that mandatory age for retirement. Now, maybe Francis will accept his resignation and put this Archbishop in his place. You might think that the Archbishop of San Antonio is kind of a weird fit given his personal background and the details I just told you about him, that he's a weird fit for New York or Chicago, but remember, these promotions are about politics, nothing else, and it will send a message, especially now with the salience of the incoming president's biggest campaign issue in New York City. In case you haven't been aware of what's been happening on that front in New York City, the mayor there is on board with the incoming president despite being a member of the opposite party. At least on that one issue. And that's a pretty big issue in New York City these days. It was forced on them in the last 2 years. That issue is near and dear to the U.S. bishops because they believe they can take care of the crisis of Catholics not going to Mass anymore by having new Catholics show up and who are not converts, but just new Catholics to the country. And what do? That's not usually how it works out, but they make a great deal of money off the U.S. government in promoting these programs for those people in question through nonprofit organizations like Catholic Charities and Catholic Relief Services and a few others, all of which in my mind should be disbanded at this point. They do more harm than good. But this bishop lost the plot. He needs your prayers because, frankly, if you're prone to tirades like that, there's something wrong. There's something else going on there. There's something very wrong. So please pray that this Archbishop finds peace, interior peace, because it'll help him do his job as a Prince of the Apostles. Far better than he's probably doing it now. But I'm curious what you think about this. Do you think this is clearly just a politics thing? That he will probably get a promotion to a bigger see, maybe given the red hat of the College of Cardinals, as I suspect that he might be in the next year? Let me know what you think about this in the comments, please. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So to sharing this on social media, that helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.